Once upon a time, in a world far beyond the clouds, there was a magical place called the Land of Forgotten Fairytales. This was where all the stories that had been lost or left untold lived. The land was filled with shimmering forests, candy cane mountains, and rivers that sparkled like liquid starlight. But the most magical thing about this land was its inhabitants, characters from stories that had never been finished or had been forgotten over time. In this land, there was a little girl named Lila, who had no story of her own. She had appeared one day in a quiet meadow, with no memory of where she came from or who she was. The other fairy tale characters welcomed her, but Lila always felt a little out of place. While Cinderella had her glass slippers and Jack had his beanstalk, Lila had nothing but a small silver key that hung around her neck. She didn't know what it unlocked, but she wore it every day, hoping it would lead her to her story. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon and painted the sky in hues of pink and gold, Lila decided to explore the Whispering Woods, a mysterious forest where the trees were said to hold secrets. The other characters warned her not to go, but Lila's curiosity was too strong. She tiptoed into the woods, her heart pounding with excitement. As she wandered deeper, she noticed something strange. The trees seemed to hum softly, and their leaves shimmered like tiny mirrors. Suddenly, she heard a faint cry for help. Following the sound, she stumbled upon a tiny glowing door at the base of an ancient oak tree. The door was no bigger than her hand, but it had a keyhole that looked just the right size for her silver key. With trembling hands, Lila inserted the key into the lock and turned it. The door creaked open, revealing a swirling tunnel of light. Without hesitation, she stepped inside. The tunnel led her to a grand library, filled with towering shelves that stretched as far as the eye could see. Each shelf was packed with books, but these weren't ordinary books. They were stories waiting to be told. Lila realized she had found the Library of Lost Tales, a place where forgotten stories were kept until someone remembered them. As she wandered through the library, a book on a high shelf began to glow. Lila climbed up and pulled it down. The cover was blank, but when she opened it, the pages came to life with words and pictures. It was her story, the story of a brave girl who had been separated from her family and sent to the land of forgotten fairy tales. The book explained that Lila's family had been searching for her all along, and the key around her neck was the only way to bring her back home. Tears filled Lila's eyes as she read. She wasn't a forgotten character after all. She was a hero in her own tale. With the book in hand, she retraced her steps through the tunnel and back to the Whispering Woods. When she emerged, the other fairy tale characters were waiting for her, their faces filled with worry. "I found my story," Lila said, holding up the book, "and I know how to go home." The characters cheered, but they were also sad to see her go. Lila hugged each one tightly, promising to visit whenever she could. Then, with the silver key in one hand and her storybook in the other, she closed her eyes and whispered, "Take me home." In a flash of light, Lila found herself in a cozy cottage, surrounded by her family. They hugged her tightly, tears streaming down their faces. Lila knew she was finally where she belonged. And so, Lila's story was no longer forgotten. It became a beloved tale in the land of forgotten fairy tales, reminding everyone that even the smallest key can unlock the greatest adventures.